Hey everyone, hope you're ready to talk some Zephyrs baseball. It's trade deadline day. It's been a little while. Let's see if I remember how to work this team. Hopefully, you've caught the interviews that I've done with a couple of fake sports dynasty wizards. I just did one recently with Ricky O'Donnell about his college hoops 2K8 series, and then I did one not long before that with Aussie Villain about everything he's up to with out of the park baseball and football manager. So check those out on the channel if you haven't seen those yet. And in just a second, I'm going to come back and I'm going to let you know where the Zephyrs are in the standings and then what we're doing on the trade deadline day here and in the days leading up to it to try to get this team to not only avoid relegation, but maybe make things interesting and make a run at a playoff spot. That's coming up next, right after your dramatic opening. All right, here we go. Let's take a look first at the standings. And you can see how things are looking there. So, you noticed a few things. First of all, the Zephyrs currently would not be relegated if the season ended today. But it would only take a small losing streak to end up down in one of those spots. And then in each league, the top 6 teams make the playoffs with our current format. So if you look up at the last team currently in the playoffs, if the season ended today in the National League, it's the Colorado Rockies with 51 wins. And the Zephyrs are at 46 wins. So they're really not that far down from the playoff spot, too. It's going to take a really nice run down the stretch to make the playoffs. But my main objective is to make sure this team stays up in Major League Baseball. So one of the challenges, and this is what makes things interesting with the promotion and relegation, is that you want to make some trades and some moves to try to have the best team you can, obviously, when you're in this position. But the Zephyrs normally would be a rebuilding club, and so they'd be trading some guys away right now, maybe considering themselves out of the playoffs, maybe not, but they wouldn't be going all in. And I can't go all in, obviously, because I don't want to give up the future, but I also can't have a fire sale because then I might get relegated. So there's no more tanking and just getting a good draft pick. You could actually end up getting demoted. So that's the challenge right now, is with a team that, is still very new and doesn't have a huge farm system. I don't want to give away the future prospects I do have. I think I've started to gather some good ones, and I'm not going to trade them away right now, but I do need to make some moves to make sure we stay up in the majors. So those are the standings. I've been pretty active at the trade deadline. I'll go ahead and show you some of what we've been doing. So here you can see the moves that we've made on the 31st. I'll open up some of these and give you guys some details. So first thing here is that this is a deal we made where we had a Rule 5 guy. He's promising. He's 24 years old, but he hasn't been great for us. And I didn't want to just send him back to the team that he came from. So I just went ahead, and you can see, the numbers he's put up this year. I was hiding him in the bullpen to see if he could develop a little bit or improve as the sample size got larger over the season, but it's just not happening. And he might end up being a good pitcher, but I wanted to get him off the roster without losing him for nothing and have to send him back to his team. So I traded him, and the Astros gave me 5 pitchers for him, all guys that aren't on major league contracts yet. And who knows if any of these guys will pan out, but they were willing to throw 5 guys at us for this Rule 5 guy, so I went ahead and did it. Nothing that's going to help us right now in terms of the prospects we got, but it does help us because I no longer have to worry about that one pitcher I was kind of hiding in the bullpen that I couldn't send down to the minors or I'd lose him for nothing. So I was to the point where he needed to be demoted, basically. And so I just shipped him out of town for some prospects. So let's see. Here's a relief pitcher I picked up as a potential another arm in the bullpen for a catcher who was 30 and going to be a free agent after the year. He was down in AAA. Here's a big one. So sometime after the season started, Hanser Alberto hadn't gotten a contract from anyone. So you can see I got him on a nice salary of only $563,500. And he did pretty well when he first came up, but then he really started to struggle. And, the numbers he was putting up after he got more and more at bats just weren't good enough, even though he plays defense well. I had other guys who could play defense. So I shipped him off for something we really needed, which is another bat in the lineup. And I got Urshela in this deal, and he's been a much better player offensively than Alberto, and I can put him at third base. Has a really good arm. Good enough for third base. Not excellent, but good enough, and gives us another bat to throw into the lineup. I also had Trevor Williams, who was struggling as a starter. So I flipped him for a lefty who's having a better season and got them to retain some salary. So he had a rough outing his last time out, and actually several rough outings. Didn't have any options left. And so you can see his numbers weren't great. And I decided rather than lose him for nothing, I had somebody who was interested in throwing a lefty my way, who's having a better season, was able to get them to retain some salary. And, his numbers aren't anything fantastic, but they're better than what I had. And we'll see how he does. And I can always get rid of him if I need to. Another deal to add some more depth to the bullpen is I was able to trade a pitching prospect that might pan out, but I wasn't really seeing exceptional things from. I was able to trade him away and pick up a third base prospect who looks like he might be okay. We're going to give him some time. Some of his ratings aren't great, but he's been progressing here as a 23-year-old at AA from last year to this year. And then, the big piece in this deal is that we were able to get Bork from the Nationals. It's not going where I want it to. There we go. Who gives us another guy out in the bullpen. Very inexpensive option for the rest of this season, and then he's due to hit arbitration. But he's been really good for the Nationals, and I'm not sure why they wanted to get rid of him. Maybe they aren't ready to handle whatever his salary is going to be next year. I think he wants about $3 million right now for next season, which is very good for this kind of an arm in the bullpen. So I picked him up because I've had some, and those are kind of the big trades on trade deadline day that I've made. I've made some others leading up to it. I'll show you the bullpen in a second. While we're here, we'll just take a quick look through. I was able to make a couple other deals. Traded a guy who was out of options here, who I think is a young pitcher that, could end up doing something, but actually, look, he's out for 3 to 4 months now after I've traded him. And got some other prospects. This is a guy who I'm really interested in from a bat perspective, and he's decent as a catcher too. I'd like to see that catcher ability higher, but not bad. And then just a couple others you've made. So I had Benintendi earlier this season, and he was just doing okay. But you can see here he is. I mean, actually more than okay, I guess you could say. But I had other guys I wanted to get some at-bats for in the outfield. And when I signed him, I got him for a very reasonable price, but I got him for a while. And he's 29, and I've started to see some prospects coming along in the outfield. And I had a chance to flip him for a bigger bat and to pick up another, a few other players in the deal. So I went ahead and did that. And Miguel Sano's been, a power hitter with Minnesota that I was able to add and get them to retain some of his salary. And he is a free agent after this season. So that way I don't have to worry about, the contract like I did with Benintendi. So it frees up some dollars because I'm going to have some other guys I'm going to need to sign as some of my younger players hit arbitration, and just didn't want to really have Benintendi around for as long as I'd signed him for, putting up some pretty good numbers, but nothing that made me want to keep him around. And then I got a couple other prospects in the deal. And I was really looking to add some more power. Our offense really needs a boost there. I traded Will Smith for a couple of guys. He wasn't pitching well. After his injury, he just didn't seem to be the same guy. So now this goes back towards the beginning of the season where I was making some deals back in May. I unloaded Michael Taylor. He wasn't doing great. Got some prospects for him. I got Kella here. This was a good trade because he's been another great arm in the bullpen. I'll show you that one. Michael Geddes was out of options, and I picked up a really good third baseman. So here, let me show you this trade. So, and I've been pleased with the results of this one because he's been a good bullpen arm. And then this one, I don't know why the Braves were willing to make this trade, because it's worked out well for me in the time he's been on the San Juan roster. But he's not putting up quite the numbers he was putting up in Atlanta, but we still got some season left. So let's just make sure there's nothing else big. This was actually a trade where I traded a couple of decent prospects of mine for some guys who I think have maybe even more upside. So we'll see how that one goes. I know there was some talk in the comment about this guy, Kevin Made, that we got. And Logan Gregg is actually one of my top pitching prospects at this point. And he's been having a decent season in Double-A and then now in Triple-A too. So we'll see what happens there. So let's take a look at the Pbl standings too, because I want to show you guys what's happening there. Because as you know, in that league, we've got 4 teams at the end of the season that'll get promoted. So if the season ended today, it would be 3 major league teams coming back up: Toronto, Texas, Pittsburgh. And then Cincinnati is a few games out of the race right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if we'll have, for the first time ever, any of the major league teams not make it back up. The last time we had the flip-flop where the 4 went down and 4 went up, with all 4 coming from the major leagues down, they all went right back up the next season. So we'll see what happens there. Let's take a look at how the teams doing. So, and you can see, some of the guys I've gone out and gotten and where they are, how they're doing in the lineup. I'll talk to you about my pitching too in a second, because that's been tough. We had Severino and he was doing great, and now he's injured, and we've had some struggles in the bullpen, but Kimbrel is one of them. That's one of the reasons I went out and got Bork. And Kimbrel I have for another season after this. He's not a free agent until after next season. And actually it's a player option. So I don't know what he'll do. But I was actually thinking about dealing him, even though, it's great to have depth in your bullpen. He hasn't been great at times this season. His ERA plus, he's just a little below league average there. And I just need better from a guy like him. But he's 35 now. I don't know, maybe he's starting to decline a little bit. But we've had a little depth now in the bullpen, and we'll see what happens. But before I move, it's still trade deadline day here. It's still July 31st, so I could still decide to move him. I was thinking about maybe just trying to get another starting pitcher for him. And I'll show you the pitching staff. I'm jumping around a little bit here as I get different ideas as I look at guys. But you can see here, what we have in the bullpen right now. I think I got a good lefty-righty mix at the moment. But I've got some guys in AAA I can move up and down if I need to. Aaron Fletcher has normally been stronger than this, so we'll see if he bounces back from an injury after being, on rehab down in AAA. And then starting a rotation now without Severino in there. Jordan Montgomery's been a bright spot. He was a free agent that I signed in the offseason, and you can see his numbers. He's been really impressive. I only have him for $1.1 million, and because of the season he's having, he's interested in an extension, but wants $13 million a year. So I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. I'm going to sit on that one for now. So I see you guys posting some comments. Hey, Alex. Yeah, man, I got to keep an eye on the comments. I was in on one screen tonight, and I was in my out of the park screen, so didn't see that you were posting some comments over here. Thanks for doing that, and glad you like the lineup, man. It's coming together. And I think enough moves have been made to keep this team up in the majors. We'll see what happens, and if we can make a playoff run too. But it'll definitely be interesting. I'm excited to record this so that now I can move past the trade deadline. I've been sitting here at the trade deadline for a few days. Oh, I thought you were telling me to check the comments because you were over here trying to talk to me. Yeah, a lot of messages in the unread folder there. I kind of open the important ones, and then there's so many I get that I should just unsubscribe from, to uncheck the box because I don't read them. I read kind of the ones that I need to really keep an eye on about my players and contracts, things like that. But there's a lot of stuff that comes in that I'm just not that focused on because it's just not really critical. But yeah, I'm sure that 865 sitting there definitely bothers anybody who's a fan of a zero inbox. So I'll do my best. I'll see if I can clean it up before the next broadcast, or at least mark them all as read. So Jordan Montgomery's been a real bright spot, and we'll see if I am able to re-sign him, how much he is. Let's see where we finish for the season and how he ends up. So here, some other guys. This is Luis Castillo, who's a guy that I signed as a international free agent in the offseason 2 years ago. And he did really well last year. We were in the PBL, and he's putting up some good numbers this year too. So he's a 24-year-old pitcher, 2.4 WAR, ERA plus. So he's above league average there. And, I'm pretty happy with him. We'll see what his numbers do over time as he stays in the league. But definitely a guy, worthy of a spot. Do I want him as my number one starter right now with Severino injured? Probably not. And I could shuffle these. I mean, really, Jordan Montgomery is my number one guy at the moment. Thorpe is another guy that, is now, he's 27. It feels like he should be younger than this, but did really well last season in the PBL. And then he's been okay this season for me. We did Jordan Montgomery. Bryce Jarvis was a guy I traded for right in the offseason, and he was a pretty highly rated pitching prospect. He's been doing very well down in AAA in 15 starts. Check out his 4 WAR. Look at his ERA plus. He's just been really good. Doesn't give up a lot of home runs. Look at all these strikeouts compared to walks per 9. So with the injury to Severino, he's getting a shot in the starting rotation, and I think it's well-deserved. He's been up one other time in the season, and I think he may have pitched in one game then. I had him in the bullpen a little bit, and now I've shifted him over to the rotation. We're going to see how he does. And then Jeff Hoffman's a guy I picked up. I I think this was just like a 1-for-1 trade. I have to remember what was going on when I made this deal. But yeah, they were interested in this right fielder who I didn't really think, was looking like he's going to be a superstar. We'll see if that, I mean, if it comes back to haunt me, it does. If he has some big change in his trajectory there. But I just was trying to find starting pitching depth because I just needed more guys. I didn't want to call up guys from AAA just yet. But I have a few guys down there who I think I should give a shot soon. And so he was somebody I was able to grab for a pretty low price. So you can see he's only been with me for a little while, and he's off to a pretty good start. So we'll see how that plays out. So yeah, the starting rotation is probably my concern at the moment after the injury to Severino. But if you look at how we've been doing, pitching and defense haven't been our problem. Some of these numbers I'd like to improve on, but if you look at these and where we rank it over here, and then you compare that to where we are hitting wise, I think you can see why I decided to go out and try to grab guys like Urshela and Sano to add some more bats. And Urshela is the recent addition; he hasn't played for us yet, and Sano's been around for a little while. So I'm just trying to make some adjustments without giving everything away. Alex was asking, do you know if there's a way to unsubscribe from scouting report messages? They flood my inbox. Probably. I'd have to take a look. But yeah, I think I've done this before in other sims, but there is a way to go down here with the subscriptions. Is scouting reports one of them? I don't know, actually. If anybody knows where that setting is, definitely chime in the comments. But yeah, I need to cut back on some of these. That'll get rid of this inbox problem. But then you can always go here and say, there we go. Look, problem solved. I have a 0 inbox again. Anyway, I'll keep inbox 0 as my goal. Let's see what we can do. But mostly, I just want to not get relegated. But hey, these are both good things to shoot for. I want to show you guys also the prospect situation. And I have some decisions to make, really, about when to give some guys a shot. So, especially from a pitching perspective, I've got some prospects here. This guy's 12th ranked prospect in the majors right now. As you can see, he had a really strong season last year in AA for me. Here's what he's been doing at AAA this season in 19 starts. He's not blowing it out of the water, but if I need another starter, this guy's probably the next guy up. And I might even give him a shot here at some point. Even if, if I might just, see how he does for a couple of starts. So Greg is another one. I think I showed you guys him earlier, that he was acquired in a trade right before the season started. So I started him off in AA, and he was just crushing it down there. Brought him up to AAA. He's doing well there too. He's 24. A couple other pitchers. I already showed you Jarvis because he's up getting a shot now. Emmanuel's is another guy who's been doing really well. He was having a good season in AA, and now I'm giving him a shot up in AAA, and we'll see how that goes. I mean, he's been really good so far in 4 games, and we'll see what happens over the rest of the season and when it might make sense to call him up. And then in terms of some other guys over here, I've got some that aren't pitchers. This was my top draft pick this year. I had the 5th overall pick. I had that as a compensation pick because we didn't sign last year's draft pick. because it was just not a very deep draft, and this was a strategy we talked about in the stream, letting that pick go as the 4th pick last year, not signing him and getting the 5th as compensation. So that's what I did there. And he is in rookie ball right now, and he's struggling a little bit, but I'm not too concerned. So his OSA ratings are a little different than what my head scout thinks. I still wasn't like blown away that this was the guy I got at 5th overall. There were not, there was not anybody. There were a few guys to pick from, but nobody who was, just looking like an amazing superstar at that point. So this is our guy. And, he's currently ranked the 33rd prospect in baseball, and he's 3rd on our list. Juan DeLuna is a guy that I got in the international free agent signing in July of 21. And he's actually been in my international complex, and now for the first time he's up in rookie ball, and he's not doing that well, but he's only 20 years old, and he just turned 20. We'll see what happens with him there. And his OSA ratings are really strong, but my head scout's been pretty good, so we'll see where this guy ends up as he develops. Zach Veen is like really giving me some stuff to think about. This is one of the reasons where, I've got some guys in the outfit already, and this guy's coming along where I didn't necessarily want to be committed to Benintendi for a long time. So he's now at AAA. He was really tearing it up down at AA, and I brought him up to AAA. He's doing well. He's got good ratings, got a little bit more to do here until he reaches his full potential. And I actually he was a left fielder and or maybe a right fielder, and I'm force playing him in the other one just to give him, both corner options for when he does get called up to the majors. And a lot of these guys, I'm really thinking about giving them a chance, especially the pitchers, before the end of this season. So we'll see kind of how the team does coming out of the trade deadline and what we're looking like, and if we're going to avoid relegation. And, if we're either doing really well, I might give some of these guys a little shot, or, if we're struggling, then these are some of the guys I'm going to turn to once we're past the trade deadline, and I won't have that as an option anymore. And then we've talked about Kevin Made before. I mentioned him earlier. I can't remember if I clicked into him, though. He's injured right now, but I'm loving this guy's potential as a shortstop. So he's only 20 years old, but the glove is just, fantastic. And we'll see how some of this other stuff develops over here with the batting ratings and what that looks like over time. But just for his defensive ability, I'm excited to see what he can do in spring training with me next year. And then we're getting into some other guys that were draft picks this past season. This was my first round pick. I think this was this might have been compensation for a free agent leaving. So he's a starting pitching prospect. Kohler was another draft pick this past June. He was our 2nd round pick. And, he's got some potential as I think a hitter for average. And I was pretty happy with a lot of the guys I got in terms of their personality and the things that, work ethic, intelligence. I was able to find a good mix of guys, I think, that have some ratings and some potential there. So that's kind of what's happening in the prospect area. Some of these guys, I might have up before the end of the season. Hector Leon's another guy who was up at the beginning of the season. I love his glove. And I've been trying to play him at some other positions when he's been on rehab in the minors. He's down in AAA after an injury right now. And I'm trying to give him some third base time. ideally with some of these other ratings, like his range and his ability to turn the double play, I don't really see him as a third baseman. He's going to be a shortstop and sometimes second baseman. But I just want to have a guy who can come off the bench because he doesn't have a great bat. So he's going to be in the lineup for his glove. But then if he's on the bench, I want the option to have him come in for somebody as a defensive replacement at some other positions, or just to give a guy a day off. So if I can turn him into a good third baseman too, that gives me some other options. And he's also gotten a little bit of outfield under his belt through some force playing because his outfield ratings are decent too. So, and I think that about covers it. I'm gonna, as my next, and I'm glad Alex now approves of where we stand with our inbox. So it was a real important thing for us to get that zeroed out, and I feel like we're really ready to make a run at the pennant. But next, I'm going to sim for a bit, and depending on how we're doing, I guess that'll dictate when I do another live stream and give you guys an update. But now that we've got the trade deadline done, I might make one or two more little deals. I got to look at the Kimbrel thing. And then I'll start simming again. And if I have some amazing news to share, I will do another live stream. Like if we're making a run for the playoffs, I'll do more frequent updates. And otherwise, I'll give you guys an update at the end of the season if we're not going to make the playoffs, but on whether or not we avoid relegation. So thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I love doing these streams and talking to people and jumping into my brother's streams and the comment section over there. So thanks a lot for checking out the Zephs, and I will give you guys another update, hopefully with some good news that we're either making a playoff run or we are staying up in the majors. And I'll talk to you soon.